Hey guys, what's cracking? Godsman here, and welcome back to Custom Card Review 2025. Now, Custom Card Review has been past its 1 week mark, and you know what that means? The deadline has arrived, and with that, we now have access to the full complete catalog of custom cards that we'll be reviewing for this year's season of Custom Card Review. And it is quite the catalog, might I say. Didn't really take much of a peep through them because I want to keep myself as fresh and surprise-worthy as possible, but based on the Reddit statistics, we have quite a lot to go through, so this custom card season is going to be even bigger and better than any of the ones previously, just as I had surmised from the beginning here, so I could not be more excited for that. Now, last time on Custom Card Review, we went through a few interesting cards, ranging from full fleshed out archetypes based on an encounter set, to reinterpretations of a previously revealed card, to flat out new cards, and they were quite nice. Seeing the 3 order cards come together, which was a really nice twist to try and utilize, I guess, one of the fundamental properties of orders, which is that, generally speaking, most decks only focus on 1 rather than multiples, so having one that focuses on 3 would be kind of interesting. The new non-clear that we saw there was really cool, and of course the Zeal archetype, which was a full-fleshed encounter archetype based on Zeal, utilizing really interesting order zone shenanigans that you would expect from Brantgate in ways that are not too apart from Archetype, Dimension Police, that kind of thing. So if you like the sound of that, definitely check out the previous episode of Custom Card Review if you happen to miss out on that. There's going to be a playlist to all these custom card reviews, so if there's ever an episode that you happen to skip on out for whatever reason, life's calling, then you can definitely go catch up on those in that playlist down below on my channel. And with all that said, let's go ahead and get into this week's custom card review. I hope you enjoy. So we're going to begin with Adventurous Pizza, which is otherwise erstwhile known as Chaos Breaker on our streams. Of course, probably based off of the actual Chaos Breaker Dragon, right? They even have the PFPM on there, so I mean, there's no doubts about it. So his description says, you all pretty much know who I am. Yes, we do. And with making so many customs at the moment, here's the customs I'm proud of. The Hakenshi. So the Hakenshi archetype is going to be an interesting archetype for me to review, because I'll just say right off the cuff here that I have something that I can bring into this review that I can't really bring into almost any of these other ones, which is the power of experience and retrospect. See, I've actually fought these quite a few times on stream by this point, so I actually have a lot of real experience in battling these cards, so I have more substance behind my arguments and some of the opinions I've come to like draw from playing against these cards, right? So, you know, when we go over this, I'm actually going to bring up a little bit of my experiences when fighting against this deck, and it'll be kind of an interesting change of pace. Now, we have here a total of 6 cards, and because we're starting off with this, I actually just took the liberty of putting the extra posts up here so that we can go to the movies here. So let's go ahead and start off with the leader, aka Vanguard of the Hakenshi, the destined one to sacrifice Yatsufusa. Now, this is a grade 3 Dragon Empire unit with Twin Drive, Persona Ride, the usual stats. Now, his first skill of 2 is Auto on the Vanguard Circle. When this unit attacks, you can counterblast 1 and bind a rear guard. You choose a card in your bind zone with a different card name from the bound card, call to rear circle, and it gets 5,000 power. But if the opponent's grade 3 or greater, it gets 10,000 power instead of 5,000 power. Divine Skill, Auto on the Vanguard Circle. At the end of battle, this unit attacked a grade 3 or greater unit. You can counterblast 1 in order to stand this unit, and it gets drive -1 until end of turn. If your bind zone has 6 or more cards, you get the following ability. All of your units with Remnant Sacrifice in their card names get shield plus 5,000 until the end of this fight. This is quite a interesting unit. It's sort of a Frankenstein of different basic modalities and has a pretty clear gimmick, but unclear benefits of that gimmick. See, the whole point of the Hakenshi archetype is you're supposed to ramp up bind zone, and as you get more binds, you can accumulate stronger effects. That is the fundamental design philosophy behind them, but the execution of them is where I kind of draw some issues with it, right? So, case in point here with Yatsufusa. Now, Yatsufusa's basic auto skill is not a bad auto skill. It is, for most intensive purposes, a multi-attack, right? But swapping out units from the bind zone does have the potential for a lot of interesting utility combo plays. And of course, it has a pretty decent power up, so it seems to be at base worthy of like the standard format with that alone, right? Now, the Divine Skill is the weirder bit, right? So the execution of the Divine Skill feels rather split, because one end is trying to do a Varga Dragrace as kind of stand effect, whereas the other one is giving you shield value for the rest of the game, which is predicated on the bind zone having 6 or more cards. Now, that condition is pretty darn easy to reach because, as we'll come to see, there's a lot of bind cards, and there's some cards here that weren't included in this review that does blow off, like, it blows this entire deck out of proportion, right? And there's one here in particular that I noticed he didn't include that I'll bring up later because it adds a really large piece to this puzzle. So Yatsufusa's skill is a bit weird because the divine skill reads as both a finisher but also like a grind effect, which is kind of weird. Now in the past we've had some divine skills that are versatile, right? They give you multiple ways to utilize them and they have properties to them where it's sort of up to player expression to decide the merit of that divine skill. Key ones would include Alden's divine skill because that calls for resources, aggression, combo plays. There's a lot going on with there. Or perhaps my favorite example is Reziles, right? Whether you're trying to get back in crit compression to try and kill the opponent and the extra drive to help with that, or the extra drive in the miracle to be more defensive, it's a very open-ended divine skill. This one isn't really open-ended. It just does two very specific but very diametrically opposing things. One is attacking, the other is defending. So it's a little bit of a weird one. You know, I don't really know what to say about Yatsufusa. It kind of reads as a card that wants to do a lot, but in the process becomes a bit confusing as a card. Having said that though, it's not a bad card, right? I'd probably rate this one about like a 7 out of 10, give or take. Its basic multi-attack skill, it has potential, right? I actually don't mind that at all. So we start off okay with this one. However, then we go on to Sacrificial Demon Hound Shinyatsufusa. Now, this thing right here is where we start to have problems. Let me read what it does. So Sacrificial has all the same basic stats as his previous Yatsufusa, and he has these skills. So it has 3 auto skills. The first one is auto on Vanguard Circle. When it's placed on the Vanguard Circle by writing from Unum Yatsufusa, it's a different card name. You can actually Persona Ride if you didn't Persona Ride. Auto on the Vanguard Circle once per turn. When it attacks a Vanguard, you counterblast 1 and bind 2 rear guards to call 2 cards from your bind zone to rear circle. And then if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, those unit gets 10,000 power instead of 5,000 power. So we got double multi-attack now, so we're kind of power creeping it a little bit, but then the divine skill, get this out, right? So at the end of the battle, this unit attacks, counterblast 1, stand this unit gets drive -1 until end of turn, and then it gets the 5,000 shield. So this divine skill is basically the same as the other divine skill. It got to keep the drive, so you're doing 3 drives here, and you're doing it on the back of like 4 rearguard attacks. So it's a 6 attack turn. It's getting a ton of power, so it's kind of like Odium, but Varga, they had a baby, and this was their attack pattern. This got really crazy and out of hand, right? Now, Shin Yatsufusa went through a lot of like variations, and it had like, it had a lot going on, but basically the way that this deck works is this one now doesn't require any bind ramp. So it's a lot like Varga Rasetsu, where your divine skill is basically conditionless, right? On top of that, we have to bear in mind that there's not only the Persona Ride, but the extra power-ups of those rear guards. You're calling multiple of those rear guards, so those rear guards are quite powerful. This is a heck of an attack pattern. When fighting against this deck, it's generally really hard to survive past its turn 4 because it just beats you senseless, right? It's got the power level of like Odium's divine skill turn, right? Except it can do it every single turn, which is absolutely ridiculous. Now you might be like, oh, but what about the counterblast? It seems like it's counterblasting a lot. Well, it's got one of the easiest counter charges in like I've seen in a custom card, so you don't have to worry about that. Trust me, these rear guards have got your back. Speaking of, let's go ahead and read a bit of those, shall we? So this is Inasaka Tanemotomo. Now this thing absolutely insane, right? So it has an axe skill in the rear circle once per turn, which states that you can energy blast 3 and bind a card from your drop zone to either draw 2 cards and then bind a card from your hand. That bind is not an issue. That bind is helpful. So you basically +2. So you got 2 binds and 2 draws. That's insane for Energy Blast 3. Or you could choose to call a Grade 1 or less Remnant Sacrifice from this unit to the rear circle from the... It says choose up to 1, but it doesn't say where it chooses. The guy like revives it from the drop zone though, so I'm going to assume it's the drop zone. But maybe they just didn't know what to do with this, so they may have intended bind zone, but I see them do it from drop zone, so I'm gonna assume this is just a typo there. So thankfully I do know from experience fighting it that it's supposed to be a revival skill. Having said that, though, even without that revival skill, this draw 2 cards is effing ridiculous, right? You're getting so much dig power for effectively no conditions, and you're like going +2 in bind zone. So that's what I mean by like this condition right here of 6 or more bind zone is not an issue, right? You just have to brick in order to not be able to reach that condition. Which, you know, if your countermeasure for balancing a card is, oh well, if it bricks, it can't do it. That's not a good countermeasure. Any deck can brick and do absolutely nothing. That's the floor. It's a bare minimum. So yeah, this one just does way too much, despite, funnily enough, only having 1 skill, right? Now, this is Inata Yasuyori. Now, this is one of the big beaters this deck has. So, continuous in the rear circle, it's Yada locked and it gets 5,000 power, right? Not so bad so far, right? Actually kind of reads like those little boosters. But then the second skill is where it gets bigger, right? So, auto in the rear circle, when it attacks a Vanguard, if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater and is placed on rear circle by your card's ability, you can bind out the rear guard, and this unit gets 5,000 power for every 2 cards in your bind zone until end of that battle. So, with the way that Inata Yasuyori works, let's say that you got like 8 cards in bind zone, right? Which is really easy to do in this deck by the time. You're looking at about an extra 20,000 to it, and then that's in addition to the extra 20,000 you're getting from Shinyatsufusa. So that's 53,000, and then it's got another 5,000 on top of that, so it's 58,000 bare minimum. So that's not even including any boosters, and nor is it including any triggers, right? And remember, you can get these cards pretty easy, right? You got a lot of resurrection tools going on here. And one of the cards that he didn't show here was this really insane order card that lets you not only get a bunch of binds, but also like more power to front row. It's effectively an extra persona, right? So you actually get 6 attacks under 20,000 power to front row, right? That's just superior to what the format can provide. So it's a pretty objectively high level power creep, and most of the decks I brought to bear against it basically can't survive unless they sack and get lucky, right? Which is not what you want from a deck. So the concept here is admittedly kind of cool in that you're basically exchanging card values. So you're technically going -1 for it in order to get a huge power up. So I get it, right? But at the same time, because resources are so incredibly easy in this deck, it just comes off as being like a non-factor, right? And not a good cost to use. So yeah, Yunada is just I think his card design is fine, but it really suffers from some of the resources cards, right? So Inasaka is one of them. Another one here is Irumura Masanori. So Masanori, but why is he not bald? So Masanori has the typical archetype booster skill of getting 5,000 power during the battle. That it's boosted if you've got the archetype grade 3 or greater. So auto on the rear circle, when this unit boosts a grade 3 or greater Yatsufusa, it gets 2k automatically. So that's what makes it the 15k booster. But then at the end of that battle, you can put it into soul for counter charge 1 or energy charge 3. So, a couple things that makes this really bad. Well, bad as in card design, but like dummy powerful in terms of for the deck. So this is conditionless. It just needs to boost the Vanguard and you get this skill. On top of that, counter charge 1 or energy charge 3, that would even include if you didn't counter charge or energy charge that turn anyway, right? This card is something that is also recurable, right? You put into soul, then you soul blast it, and then you revive it back out from the drop zone, right? So this is a recurring counter charger at all times, something that a lot of decks would kill to have, right? It's got no ramp clause on it at all, which is probably the thing that you would have needed at bare minimum to try and stopgap this, right? Like, why not give this thing like a ramp clause? Like, if you had like 8 or more in the bind zone and put itself in the soul to counter charge or energy charge, then that would make a little more sense, because that means you had to put some effort into reaching this point of the game where you would need resources anyway, right? But as it stands, this thing means that you really can't get choked out. Then you've got Inoue Masashi. So Masashi is another multi-attack kind of extender card, but not quite. So it's a grade 1 unit that says in the bind zone, when during your turn, when a card with remnant sacrifice is bound by your card's ability, you can counterblast one and bind a card from drop to call to rear circle. So it's basically, you could either multi-attack with it, or you could try to like make it a booster. But now this is another thing where Inata Yasuyori kind of suffers, because this bind condition means you can bind a front row and then to replace that front with Inoue Masashi, which by the way is under 20,000 power, right? And that's your 7th attack that you're doing that. Then at the end of the battle that it did boost, you can put it to soul to give a unit plus 5,000 power to end of turn. That effect doesn't seem like too great. Now, what you would normally use it for is to put it on your Shinyatsufusa, so it's going twice there, which, by the way, yeah, Shinyatsufusa is going to be coming in for, like, if you do that effect, it's coming in for 38 twice at bare minimum. And this sucker here has got a lot going on too, right? Because over 3 drives, you get a trigger. Let's say you got a front trigger. Let's know 30,000 in front row. It's just a dumb beatdown deck, right? Like, that's really, like, despite a lot of the genuinely kind of like interesting elements here, where you are getting binds, you get bind swap combos. It feels like Shoto Doji, which it's apropos, it's Dragon Empire, but it just does silly, dumb beatdown, right? It doesn't really care to expand on the interesting parts of its playstyle. So while I think, so functionally speaking, it's overpowered, but somewhat interesting. Thematically, it's quite intriguing, but also bankrupt because it doesn't actually cash in on anything that it could have offered, right? It just beats down. So I think overall, when playing against this deck, both my and also a lot of the viewers, right, on my weekly Saturday streams where I battle people, by the way. So if you ever wanted to battle yours truly in a card fight, go be a part of my weekly Saturday streams. I do them in the afternoon hours based on Western time, CST. So if you're around by then, maybe go check it out, right? I do it a lot. Now, having said that, people kind of have gotten sick and tired of Yatsufusa because they recognize that all the deck does is just kind of like does nonsensical resource beatdown kind of things, and it's just way too powerful, right? And the reason why it's too powerful is because it just insists heavily on nothing but numbers and advantage, so it feels like it has no drawbacks for all this like power creepy beatdown. So to Chaos Breaker, you out there, my suggestion is to do an overhaul of the archetype. If you want to make it balanced and fun to play against, you need to do an overhaul of the archetype in which a lot of the power level is turned back. But if you want to keep the power level, you have to make it actually be more expensive, right? And I say expensive, but also condition based. You have a bind ramp deck. I say use it. Use your bind ramp because that allows you the ability to stopgap your plays in a way that is thematically in tune with the archetype. But as I said on the streams many times, if you don't mind that it's broken and you just want to play a broken deck, that's fine. At the end of the day, a custom card is for yours to create, right? So if you want something like that, that's okay. I'm not going to tell you not to make it that way. Although having said that, opponents may not play you with this, right? I say it out there so that if you want to change it and make it a little bit more fun for both sides, that's how you would do it. So those are my overall critiques on it. I think overall the Yatsufusa archetype gets about a 6 out of 10, give or take. Good concepts, but poor execution. Now, moving on from there, we've got Fixed Straight. Now, Fixed Straight has what appears to be 3 Break Ride era encounter units, which is, oh, okay, so we got some nostalgia going on. All right, so let's start with Pixel Break Dragon, otherwise known as Gauntlet Buster Dragon. Now, Gauntlet Buster is a Dragon Empire unit, Narukami encounter with Twin Drive Persona Ride, the usual stats. Now, he's got 3 effects. Continuous on the Vanguard Circle. During your turn, for every 3 cards in your opponent's bind zone, your front row gets 5,000 power. If your opponent has 5 or more cards in their bind zone, this unit's original critical becomes 2. Okay, yeah, makes sense. If you're going to be doing a lot of binding, that at some point you're going to want to get the ramp up there, and just shy of the 6, you get the critical. So that's kind of nice, right? Because it goes against the grain of standards like more is better design philosophy, because now that means that even if you can't get the 6, you can still get a benefit from going up to the 5, right? You only have 5,000 in the front row though. So that's not a bad continuous skill. Act once per turn, Vanguard Circle, Soul Blast 2, choose one of your opponent's rear cards and bind it. If you couldn't bind, you draw a card. Makes sense. It's very reminiscent of Bob Saga to Oxaya's skill. Get rid of cards. You couldn't get rid of anything you draw. And for the same cost too, so, you know, apropos. Auto once per turn, Vanguard Circle. When this unit attacks a grade 3 greater Vanguard, you have 4 or more damage or Persona Rope this turn, and 3 or more cards were bound this turn. Ooh, a lot of conditions there. Okay, so this is going to be a little rough to pull off at times. Discard a card with Eradicator and discard it from your hand. Your opponent cannot call or play Sentinels from hand until the end of that battle. Ooh, I love that skill. Okay, so back in the day, Gauntlet Buster Dragon was a limit break unit, and it was a finisher unit that got a lot of power and criticals every time that your opponent's rear guard was retired, meaning that Gauntlet Buster got more powerful the more that you put into it. If you retired 3 rear guards, well, buddy, that was getting plus 9k and plus 3 criticals, which was completely overkill in that format, but people loved it. Yours and truly. Now, having said that, Gauntlet Buster's biggest weakness is that it could still get guarded relatively easily. You would need like a break ride to give it into like the really big numbers there, which is kind of the point of that kind of Gauntlet combo. And then from there, even if you did get that off, the other issue with Gauntlet Buster Dragon is that it could just be shut down by a Sentinel, which makes sense. Sentinel restricts were extremely few and far in between by that point. They basically didn't exist for the most part, with the exceptions of things like Glory Maelstrom. So there was a good balance point here. Now, this card here, it's scaled up for the modern era. There's more power here. Its critical is consistent. Now, it doesn't get a bunch of criticals like the other one did, which I could say that's a little sad because I was Gauntlet Buster's whole point, but this is so much more practical. Furthermore, Gauntlet Buster had a CB2 and a special counterblast of 2 Eradicators in order to retire, which would enable the power up. In this case, you're Soul Blasting 2 instead, which is a much more reasonable cost for this era, but still kind of expensive. By doing that, you get to bind, which then helps like ramp up this condition. And then of course the discard counteracting like the thing is good because it means Gauntlet Buster can actually be a proper finisher. It keeps it from being lackluster. It's less kill potential, but it's more likely to connect. That's a good sacrifice there. I like this card. I'd probably rank this about like an 8.5 out of 10. It's not like it misses out on a couple things for Gauntlet Buster in exchange for making it like a proper modernization. And I also think that while this affects you because this is where it gets interesting for me. It says 4 or more damage or your Persona ride and 3 or more cards were bound this turn. So that is a little weird to me because I feel like Gauntlet Buster Dragon shouldn't have this axe skill be a once per turn. I think it's fine if you could Soul Blast like 4 to try that twice, right? Because that means that you can go over the top with Gauntlet and burn your resources to try and reach this condition because 3 or more bound this turn seems a little excessive to me. For a card that could only do one of it, because Eradicators are not a rear guard like centered deck in a lot of capacities. Some of them are a little bit more reliant on your rear guards to make things work, right? Like V-Series Sweep Command was a little bit more based on that, so was Bowing Saber Reverse there. But things like Gauntlet, Dragonic Descendant, these kind of things, they were always meant to be more Vanguard centric. So I'm surprised that the Vanguard isn't doing a little bit more of like its own work for itself. But I think the reason they didn't want to do that is because they didn't want to fall into a card design taboo where your Vanguard does everything by itself, which is a fair degree, right? Plus he seems to be a little bit more supportive to rear guards because it's front row power up instead of just himself power up, so he's not just a like typical spearhead maneuver. So it's a little hard, right? I feel like it could use a little bit more polish on like its design, or maybe probably the bigger thing that would rank up the score for me is if I saw the rear guards that were associated with it. Because if there were like rear guards that were able to like support Gauntlet Buster in a proper way while also fueling him in other ways, I think this would come together as a more cohesive deck for me. And Gauntlet Buster's like specific design flaws would make more sense in the context of a deck, right? So this could actually rank up higher than 8.5, but I am going to give it an 8.5 for now, just based as a standalone unit. Well done so far. Now, next up we have Solitary Liberator Gancelot. Here's a classic. Now, auto, when this unit is rode upon by a grade 3 or greater unit with gold paladin for its only clan, if you have 4 or more damage, or the unit rode has the same card name as you. Oh, so a literal Persona ride. Okay, a Persona break ride. Okay. Counterblast 1. Oh, the other original didn't have that. Choose one of your vanguards, gets 10,000 power. Choose up to 3 units, and they get 5,000 power. If one of the chosen units is Blaster Blade Liberator, it gets 10,000 power instead of... Oh, interesting. Okay, so let me read the second skill before I talk about that, but there's a few things going on with that skill. So auto on the Vanguard rearguard circle, it attacks a grade 3 or greater units, and you get 5,000 power in a turn. Okay, I like that. As a rearguard, it's still just a decent 18k attacker. Fair enough. Okay, poor Gancelot's a common for some reason. I don't know why he is. So yeah, Gold Paladin, Gator Sanctuary, yada yada, right? This break ride is fascinating to me because there's something here. So there's a couple things here that are like weak and a lot of things here that are like really strong. So of course the power up is quite a lot, right? If you get the full benefits off, like without Blaster Blade Liberator, like your bare minimum benefits should be 25,000. Blaster Blade Liberators increase it. So if you were to choose like a theoretical 3 Blaster Blade Liberators, I don't know why, because this is standard, so you don't have Excel markers, they can't all attack. So let's just, but if you chose a theoretical 3 Blaster Blade Liberators, it's a cumulative 40,000 power. Now that is definitely worth a counterblast, but it is still a counterblast. So unlike the original, we do have to pay for our power, and this is mostly the same threshold. But in addition to having higher like potential power here, the choose 3 units can also include itself. So that means that if you're focusing on like whatever you broke road Gancelot on, that thing is going to get plus 15,000 instead. So depending on your win condition, that could actually be a really nice power up here, worth the counterblast again. So while it is a downside, I actually kind of appreciate that downside, all things considered. Also, it is a bit fluid in how it's able to get procced. Having a persona ride, like as in 2 essences of the word, the persona ride, is kind of clever, right? So plus Aichi did do this like a few times where he would like break ride Gancelot onto Gancelot, and that was like a really big move, right? So I that's kind of a cool like pseudo reference there as well. So it's pretty flavorful. But having the limit break, which will allow you access to like more combo plays, and it also means that you can cross break ride if there was ever a Gancelot Zenith. So yeah, this is kind of baller. I think I'd give this like a 9 out of 10. Probably one of the only things that's a little sad to me is, and again, this is things that support would help here, is that it does fall into one big trapping that the Solitary Liberator Gancelot had in the original era, which is that against field control, this effect is never going to reach its maximum value, because you need to keep 3 units on that field to be recipients of that power-up bonus. But between them retiring your rear guards, locking your rear guards, binding them, you having to intercept with them, all that jazz, it's pretty hard to keep 3 on that field, admittedly, right? I mean, the only way to really guarantee it, even if they were to battle your front rows, is to have 3 back rows and they have 0 like retire options or whatever, which, you know, you can never really anticipate that. Even by this metagame, we have a lot of really powerful control options like Blade, Firebuff, Saga, and Virgila, so this is hard to pull off, and I kind of think that it itself not having a failsafe is probably okay with me, assuming there was a rearguard support card that would actually say revive itself at the beginning of right phase to then be a recipient of that power up, right? Case in point, we actually had something like that happen in our V Revival. So in V Revival, Solitary Liberator Gancelot is actually a card there, and Gold Lancer is a card that allows itself to call itself from the drop zone when you ride your grade 3 Liberator and you don't have another Gold Lancer in the drop zone, which means that it will be in time for the break ride to see it, and the break ride can use Gold Lancer as one of the recipients of the power-up. So that's one way in which we can help ensure the 3. So I think something like that here would have really helped out Gancelot's case, but even without the context of the support by itself, it's really paving the way to like a liberator strategy that I can get behind. It's very nostalgic, but at the same time, it's modernized in some aspects. Not in a couple other aspects by itself, but again, other cards can support that. So I see that you designing this, what was your name again? Fig, right? Yeah, Fig Straight definitely understands to not make a Vanguard do literally everything by itself. So I appreciate that. 9 out of 10. Finally, we have Mordred Phantom. So so you have a lot of momentum, Fig, so I hope you keep it with Mordred, because I'm a Shadows goon, so I can judge me some Shadow Paladins. Anyone see me on my recent stream where I was reaming on the Claret versus Blaster matchup? Yeah, that's how it is. So Auto, when this unit is run upon by a grade 3 or greater unit with Shadow Paladin for its only clan, which means Blaster, you can use the Phantom Blaster stuff as well as Luard. I don't know why in God's good graces you would ever do Luard. I don't think you really can because of the crest, but you know, it's there. If you have 4 or more damage, or the unit road has the same name as this unit, Counterblast 1. You choose one of your Vanguards and gets 10,000 power. Now you search your deck for up to 1 grade 2 unit. Okay, specifically grade 2 unit rather than a grade 2 or less Shadow Paladin as the original wording dictated. Okay, you call it, that unit gets 10,000 power. Okay, that's different. It was 5,000 before, but makes sense. If the unit called is Blaster Dark Revenger, it gets, when this unit is retired by the ability of your Vanguard, call it to a rear circle. Oh, so you're probably getting a multi-attack with this one. Okay. So pure power is Gancelot, but then this one actually has multi-attack and still a decent amount of power. One of the things that like Mordred Phantom really has going for it, as Shadow Paladins tend to be, is that they play a lot more favorably into control matchups, because no matter what, you should be able to call this grade 2 unit. Now, it is a little weird to me that it says grade 2 specifically, like it's some sort of Royal Paladin or whatever, because I think it should have called a grade 1 or less, right? Because here's how how it would. Oh, okay, let's see. Auto rear circle when attacks grade 3 or greater gets 5,000. Okay, so it's just like Gancelot, it's just an 8k beater. Okay. I thought that's what it was. I just had to double check just in case. Now, it's a common. Okay. here's how I would have worded this, right? Because I feel like this is a little bit on the sloppier side. By comparison, it's still a good card though. I would have had it choose a gray tier-less Shadow Paladin from the deck and call to rear circle. There's a few different Shadow Paladins, including the Blaster Dark Revenger, right? Then you choose one of your units and it gets you call it to the rear circle and it gets 10,000 power. Then if you have Blaster Dark Revenger, the chosen unit gets this ability. The reason why you want to do it that way is that you have a lot more versatility. Now, I don't know what Blaster Dark Revenger would do. Again, we don't know the context of it, right? But even without any supporting units, by making it 2 or less, you have a lot of Shadow Paladins that could combo off this kind of card, right? And Shadow Paladin by nature is more of a grade 1 kind of gang, where we get so many grade 1s that do the Bulwarker for utility and resource engine kind of cards. Having this combo off of that would have been massively helpful. Like for instance, I could even have seen where this effect could have comboed off with that what was the name of it? Whatever, right? So it could combo off with like some really heckin' like grade 1 Shadow Paladins down the road, especially because you're gonna have to make a few, right? If it's a Revenger deck, you're probably making things like Darkbond Trumpeter, Transient Revenger Masquerade, yada yada. So it's a little limited, and I think it's needlessly limited. And also the fact that the thing has to be called is Blaster Dark Revenger, especially, you basically have one good target. And so unless you could recycle it, if you sell your BDRs, whoops, you're not gonna be able to get the full effect here. So this is the weakest of the 3 cards that I've read by comparison, because it hamstrings itself. There are easy ways to solve this problem, admittedly, but you should solve it. And unlike a Gancelot and Gauntlet Buster, the issue here is not based on the context. The issue here is with Morton himself. I could care less what Blaster Dark Revenger realistically does. I don't think there's any reason why Morton needs to be limited to just Blaster Dark Revenger. So that is a point against it. Having said that though, what I would be interested in is, rather than supporting units as much, I would kind of be interested in seeing how you would make the other grade 3 Revengers, right? Dragwheeler Phantom, Raging Form Dragon, maybe RPBA if you felt like doing a D-Legion. I'd be interested in those because I want to see like how well you can combo for this red text skill that you grant to the called unit, because it is pretty interesting. Also, one thing about this red text skill that's like a little weird, champ, is that this red text skill, Mordred Phantom doesn't have a way of enabling it. So I don't know how I feel about that, because whereas Gancelot is basically Persona Ride friendly, Mordred Phantom's not Persona Ride friendly at all. And you have to keep in mind the context here is that we're in standard, where Persona Ride is quote unquote the standard here, or Persona Ride levels of power, but Mordred Phantom doesn't achieve that, and break riding Mordred over Mordred is not that helpful. So while like you can ride into the Revengers and then you get the really nice thing of break rides adding on to whatever varied skills of the unit that you pass on to, that's good. It doesn't achieve the level of power that I think is desired in standard, and so it's a bit incongruent. You know what it reminds me of a little bit? It kind of reminds me a little bit of in V series when they released Chrome Jailer Dragon, and Chrome Jailer Dragon had a skill to Persona Blast as an action discard of the Chrome Jailer from the hand in order to get like its call effect off. And it's like, yeah, that's a really strong effect, and you know, in a vacuum it seems like it's a really potent thing, but you have to discard a card that you would rather ride or get another Excel marker, right? So in a similar way here, it's like if you want to get Persona Ride, you have to deal with an effect that isn't useful, but in order to get like make this effect useful, you can't Persona Ride. What? It's weird. So unless something comes out like Dragruler Phantom, which treats itself as Persona Ride if you ride over Mordred Phantom, it's a bit in a weird place there, admittedly. But anyway, so Mordred Phantom, I'd give it more about like an 8, like a 7.5 to an 8. I'm gonna give it an 8. I think it's still solid, but it's missing out on like some key versatility features and a little bit that incentive necessary to even run a unit like this. All right, so overall 8.5, 9, and then 8. I mean, so 8.5 being the average. Really well done, Fixed Trade. I like these cards. All right, so now we have Zeludi's Deal March 30th. Scarlight here. Hey, Scarlight, what's happening, brother? New customs of Favrneel and Gramgrace ride lines. So we're on the Deer Days cards. Gotcha. All right, let's see here. So Caligo Mind with an L for an I. Grade 1, flavor text: the black fog chokes out the evening light and brings forth the dusk. Continuous, may only have to 1 Caligo Mind in your deck. Okay. Auto, when this placed on Vanguard Circle, costs: reveal 1 card with Favrneel from your ride deck. Reveal the top 3 cards of your deck. And if you reveal 2 or more cards of different grades, Choose up to one card to add to your hand. Move one to your soul, put the rest on the bottom of your deck. If not, add a card to your hand. Choose a card from your drop zone to add to your hand. So when you play, okay, you have to ride Favrneel obviously in the right deck, right? You have to run that, but so this is a really trippy ride line skill, right? For one thing, it has the cute Favrneel clause if you only run one of it. So I guess we're just trying to bring a theming here. But this one of copy card does have the skill to reveal 3. Now it says 2 or more cards with different grades. I don't know why. I don't know why it has that restriction, right? Because top 3 is a really low search radius. So I feel like for a Dark States deck like this, it should just be a matter of not caring, saying you get what you get and you don't throw a fit. Because inevitably, you're adding 1 to the hand and 1 to the soul, and then you can like you put the rest on the bottom. So and if you didn't put a card in the hand, you could just recycle the card that you discarded, which means effectively it had no discard cost. Hell, it's probably even a plus if you manage to discard, like, let's say an energy cycler. This is a really powerful skill, like an insanely powerful skill. Take out this restriction though, because I feel like this restriction is like not helpful here. I feel like if you wanted a restriction, you probably would have wanted to say choose one card from among them, either put it to the hand or the soul. But if you put it into the soul, then you can add like the card that you discard from that drops under the hand to like limit a little more. But even then, that's just limiting the tutoring ability. That's kind of card. It's in a top 3 search radius, so it's not that powerful. It's just powerful enough though. It's definitely preferable to the generic ride line that Favrneel got. I'll get you that. Continues to the soul. During your turn, if your Vanguard is Favrneel's card name, it gets grade +2. Okay, so it's grade 3, which is important for Favrneel's grade counting in the soul. Auto on the soul. When your Vanguard with Favrneel attacks, if it's the second time it attacked this turn, which means it needs to have restood, you Soul Blast 2 and discard a card from your hand. Your Vanguard gets drive +1 to the end. Oh, interesting. Okay, so Soul Blasting 2 and Favrneel is not that big of a deal. If you're soul charging a lot, you can Soul Blast a lot of the dregs and extras, like your starter, any triggers that you saw in there when you're soul charging grade 1s, other than Calico Mine, because he's basically a grade 3, right? But still, the Soul Blast can get a little risky, because if you're predicated on quality soul charges rather than quantity soul charges, this gets expensive. And yes, it won't cook you out of your initial restand because it assumes that you restood, but it also means that on the next turn, you could be in a little bit of trouble there. You got to be careful with that. So, I mean, yeah, and it's discarding and it's soul blasting too. So in addition to a cost, it's only a break even. So it's purely just for pressure, right? Because Favrneel restands with only 1 drive initially, at least the original Favrneel. And then the other Favrneel, well, he's got a ton. Rheingold's got a ton of power behind it. So it's kind of besides the point. So yeah, I like that skill. That's a really nice skill. And again, because this card can only be played of 1 in the deck, like this continuous skill right here, actually makes more sense now, because you would not want to have this like happen multiple times. So it's flavorful, it makes use of its restriction. Really well done so far, Scarlight. Obscurum Heart, Cloud Obscured, a grade 2 Dark Core Burst Force, the Dragon's Deadfold. So it's also got the charming once 1 in a deck clause. Let's see how this one uses it. So auto on the Vanguard circle. When it's played, you once again have to reveal Favrneel, so it's free again. You reveal the top 5 cards of your deck and reveal 3 or more cards with different grades. I don't know why the different grades. What? Wait, is this supposed to be a deck construction thing? Are they basically trying to tell you should be running grade 2s and 1s, even though you optimally want to run like grade 3s to like get the condition up as fast as possible? Because that's a little weird, champ. If so, choose up to 1 card from among them, add it to your hand. Choose to soul and put 1 to soul and shuffle your deck. Not add a card to your hand, draw a card. Oh, you're theming them on Suo's ride line even more than I thought, because that one is just the way that Vacant Fang works. So Hollow Raptor bot decks and Vacant Fang shuffle so that any trigger units that you bot deck will then get shuffled and be in circulation for Blankmeyer's drive checks. This is a similar thing for Favrneel. Now, having said that, I feel like you should have just done top 3 again, right? Because top 5 for the same basic conditions, top 5 is just too much of an upgrade. So, I know you're trying to do like 3 or more different grades, and then the draw effect may not be as good as the recycle to hand from drop zone effect, but like I personally, I think all you really needed to do was just make it top 3 and then keep the draw effect. So like top 3, remove this clause, and then you can just keep the draw if you want, because that's still a stick you card. That's fine. Or if you want to make the recycle effect, so it's the same thing. It's the same thing as Calico Mine. That way, one of the themings of Favrneel is that it's actually able to fight back against the deck out, because it's more about quality soul drives anyway, if you're trying to take it that direction. So okay, like all right then. That's how I would have done it personally. So it's a little bit weird of a ride line skill. It's definitely a bit too powerful for my liking, save for this really bizarre restriction. Maybe you thought it was too powerful and you need to give it something limiting, but I think anyone can slap on a limitation or restriction to a card, but to make the limitation feel warranted and correct is a bit of an art form. Continues to the soul during your turn. If your Vanguard is Favrneel, this unit gets grade +2. If your Vanguard stands through the battle phase this turn, all your front row units get plus 10,000 on a turn. Wait, so it gives a free continuous 10,000. Well, I mean, I know it's a one in a deck, but still, why are we giving 10,000 power to them free? And it's also 4 grades. So it makes, so basically just by running Obscurum and Caligo, you're getting 7 of those grades figured out for you, right? Yeah, okay, so this continuous skill is not as nice as I would have liked, right? I think the grade +2 makes sense, although I think it should have been a condition a la Squalid Freaks in order to make it work, just to make it a little bit more fair. That way you can't turbo this as easily. The thing that I have a problem with, why is this a free, like Rhinegold's are going to give you plus 20,000 power to front row. Why do we need to make it 30,000 power, right? So that should have been changed. If it were me, what I probably would have done is I probably would have like having it like done like a Soul Blast 2 effect, or maybe even like a Counterblast Soul Blast effect or something that effect, in order to give a critical to your Favrneel. So the theory is that on your second swing, you can proc both Caligo Mind and Obscurum Heart to get like some Counterblast and Soul Blast, and in exchange for that, your Favrneel is getting that extra drive and that critical pressure, which means any criticals that you got initially, you could give to your rear guard. And so multiple things are having that pressure, right? So it makes your overall attack pattern a lot scarier, but you're having to pay your costs for it, because Rhinegold makes your deck a lot easier in terms of cost, because it has an alternative cost of sucking in a Favrneel in order to make it happen. So like, it's not that bad, right? That's just me though. You could have also made it like Energy Blast 4, discard a card or whatever to make its original critical 2 or something. That could have been as well, but this isn't it, Chief. Now, Knight of Unyielding. Oh, are these just, yes, these are just ride lines. So if that's the case, then I can already talk about the Favrneels. I would say that these are overall about like a, they're about like a 7 out of 10, right? The bizarre restriction here of different grades doesn't hit the mark for me, and I think the continuous effect of Obscurum Heart is really like over the top. However, having the ability to kind of like tutor off top 3s is a fine search radius. It seems like it's decently helpful. Using the continuous skills to emulate Favrneel is also really clever in a way, and because that means that if you want, you can have a different ride line, still have these as really powerful 1-ups to get into the soul there, so it's a bit versatile that way. And to top it all off, I actually do really appreciate the Soul Blast 2 discard to get a drive, right? I think that's a really fine skill with just the proper amount of like cost and condition to it. So that's, I mean, it's really well done. I think Caligo is definitely the more better designed, like one of the two by far, but overall not a bad like attempt there. Now, Knight of Unyielding Bravery Constantine, grade 1. The Soaring Knight's bravery shall never waver. We shall never yield. Our conquest is assured. Never. Auto, when this unit is rode upon, cost, reveal a grade 3 Gramgrace from your ride deck. Okay, so that seems to be the theme here. Choose top 5 cards of your deck. Okay, so you look at the top 5 cards of your deck. You choose up to 1 grade to your greater card from among them, call to your circle, add it to your hand. If you do not call or add, you can draw. Oh, so either rode upon to draw, or you can tutor call. Yeah, this is very much like Tranquilla. Tranquilla had that. Now, Tranquilla gave you the ability to energy charge 2 if you're missed. This one just lets you draw for free, which by this modern era, I'm not pissy about. I think Gramgrace deserves good card advantage, because Gramgrace admittedly can be quite fragile and it's a little slow, so it needs extra card advantage to be able to hold on until its Persona Ride turn, because that Persona Ride turn is when you start to get online. Now, continues to the soul. Wow, okay, so we're really similar here, which actually I don't mind that, because these decks are pretty, these decks kind of went together, although they do play differently, so we have to be careful about that. During your turn, if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater and you have a Vanguard with Gramgrace, your Vanguard gets the following. Auto on the Vanguard circle once per turn. When your unit in the back row center attacks a grade 3 or greater unit, that unit gets power plus 5,000. If that unit's attack did not hit, Soul Blast 1 and draw a card. Oh, interesting. Okay, that's nasty. We're getting a bit of a Shadow Stitch effect here. So your back row center attack this one's a bit of a, this one can get kind of beefy, right? So Persona right to back row, plus they tend to be 23k attackers on their own, because Gramgrace is going to be calling them and giving them 10,000 power, so they're 33k attackers. This makes it 38, and then if you have a Diffin in the front row, it becomes 43, so you can power stack like quite a lot. So this could be a really hefty one. So it's a little tough to block. Now I think the attack that got hit to Soul Blast and draw it's a pretty nifty skill. Having said that though, I think the opponent Great 3 or greater to give the power is definitely like the proper reason why to do that. But considering that all it's doing is trying to get more, like it's trying to get more resources, right? So I guess the idea is it's helping you to play catch up if you're going second if they block it, but they'll probably take it because based on your attack. Oh wait, no, hold on a second. Actually, maybe not. So if you're playing Gramgrace Sieg and you get a critical onto it, then they probably don't take it, right? So, okay, actually in Sieg, I can see this happening. Soul Blast is not that bad for Sieg. You do have ways of building up soul as well in the deck, although not all of them are created equal, admittedly. But you can actually build soul like somewhat reliably in this deck, so that's not a bad cost, and the conditions just right. Yeah, you know what? Actually, yeah, I like Constantine. Constantine's pretty powerful and interesting. It just adds to the combo like oomph nature, but also giving you the card advantage needed. Yeah, Constantine's like really good. Excited. It took me a while to process it though, because you know I'm going Keter brain mode on it. I'm like thinking of the combos, man. Excited Divine Sister Profitero. Let the Soaring Reaper show you how inferior you are. That seems like a quote for the guy up there, the freaking Favrneel stuff. Not for you. What the hell is going on with the Divine Sister? She hit her emo phase. Is she sleeping with the sirens? When this unit is rode upon by a Great 3 or greater Gramgrace, you Soul Blast 1. Ooh, more Soul Blast. Okay, so we might have found a resource choke point here, chat. Look at the top 5 cards of the deck. You get a Great 2 or greater card from among them to call or add. But if you do not call or add, you draw a card, choose a card from your hand, and move it to your soul. So, okay. Okay, this is weird, right? So let's look at Constantine for a moment. So Constantine either calls or adds, and then you draw a card, right? This one that was free, by the way. So this one is the same basic benefit of call or add, right? And then you Soul Blast one, but then you draw and then put a card from your hand to the soul instead, right? So why is it that you have to pay the Soul Blast, but then it becomes a break even instead of a +1? So Profitero feels like it's kind of contradicting itself here a little bit, no? Especially because all you're doing with like the put from hand to soul is just making up for the Soul Blast anyway. So I feel like what it should have done instead is soul, so, okay, this is a little weird, right? Because another thing is that if you're adding or calling, like, this seems a little easy for Keter, you know? Like, I get the add or call because the idea is that you're trying to add a persona right off of this, but then otherwise you may want to call it, but there's no reason to call when you just add anyway, because Gramgrace isn't predicated on calling from the deck. You call from the hand and draw and stuff, so regardless, you'll add to the hand. I feel like what it should have done then is this effect should have had the effect to, like, both of them should have had the effect to, like, add to the hand, but then from there, even though they add from the hand, what it should have done is this one should have looked at like a lower radius here, and maybe it doesn't have a maybe it's if you miss skill is like just a minor resource effect. This one should have been a Soul Blast for a higher radius, and then if you didn't hit, you draw a card anyway. You see what I mean? Because now it actually incentivizes the Soul Blast. It's a better radius. You get advantage regardless, whereas this one you can miss and instead get some minor resource, but you can miss. That's how I would have done it to balance these two, because honestly, I probably was being a little too generous to Constantine, but I'm glad Profitero is kind of like forcing the issue in my mind of, yeah, we probably shouldn't have done either call or add. It should have just been one or the other, because yeah. Or what you could have done, and I've seen things do this before, like with a Carebre, an oldie but a goodie from set 7 way back when, is call if it's a grade 3 unit card or order card, you add it to the hand. Otherwise, call to rear circle. So that way, if you snag Persona Ride or something, or if you snag your key like grade 3 attackers that you'll do, you add them to the hand where they need to be called off a Gramgrace anyway. Otherwise, if it's a grade 2 or less supporting card like a Diffin, you can just call it to the rear circle. It doesn't care, right? That is very Keter coded, and that's how I think Bushiroad would have designed it personally, and I would have agreed with that. Now, final thing here, Auto on the Soul. During your turn, if you have a Vanguard Gramgrace, your Vanguard gets, when this unit attacks, you have a grade 3 or greater unit in your back row center, Soul Blast 1 and draw a card, either draw a card, countercharge one, or... Holy crap, we are Soul Blasting so much. Why is this not Genesis? Okay, so your Vanguard kits when this unit attacks, if you have a grade 3 or greater unit in the back row center, you can Soul Blast to convert to any of these 3 resources. Okay, so that's kind of a neat effect, but Soul Blast for none of these are like the same right now. Soul Blast for a draw, considering that the other thing, like you get like Soul Blast draw here as well. I get it, you're building a lot of soul, the thing goes into the soul, you could probably like recycle it out with Lacte after the fact, that Lacte can also recycle out like cards, your grade 3 cards from soul or whatever. It makes sense, but I feel like with all this Soul Blast, we should have given a little bit of soul building. Here's what I would have done. I would have had this thing have an effect. So Gramgrace Siege actually requires you to Energy Blast from one of the skills. You have another Energy Blast there as well. So what I would have done is I would have given this a conditional effect from the soul, in order to build another soul, but that's if you're trying to make it from the soul. I don't think I would have done soul in the first place, because the issue is that if Gramgrace Siege is going to be soul blasting a bunch, these things are in the way now, because they turn offline the moment you soul blast them. So instead, what I would have done is I would have given this deck soul blast effects, but then had these cards right here have muster from drop zone skills. That way, even against field control, when you Persona Ride, you can reliably build that board back in order for optimal combat, right? It's the reason why Maple is generally your grade 1, like in my opinion, Maple is one of your best grade 1 ride lines, because you soul blast it out and then you call it back in for Persona Ride and it's right there ready to rumble, right? I think you could have done the same things for Profiteer and Constantine. The in-soul skills work for Favrneel because Favreneel's whole point is supposed to be the plug and chug all that soul and keep it there for the most part in order to reach up your ramp condition. And this Soul Blast 2 skill worked as well because you're basically cutting off the fat of the excess. Once you reach the condition, you don't need to go beyond that. We're not playing Dark Regulars after all. But here it felt like you were too similar to Favrneel, and these lost sight of what they were really attempting to do. So I would have kept like Soul Blast costs here and then have them be drop zone. As a matter of fact, when you do it that way, I think if these effects actually like had Soul Blast skills in general, like their ride line skills both had Soul Blast skills, and then these were drop zone skills, that's kind of nifty, because then what you could do is you could strategically Soul Blast themselves out, and then there's chilling in the drop zone waiting for the Persona Ride where they can really pop off again. It's reminiscent of the Minerva ride line, because Minerva would put in Soul off the top 5 as well, which is a pretty decent effect, but then they got double value because you could revive them back as units, and then you could keep doing this like somewhat ad infinitum as long as you can keep recycling them back, right? So that's a similar thing here, because once these cards are on the field, they are just on the field. They don't have a ways to get rid of themselves from the field. So if there was a way to retire them, or you're playing against a field control matchup, then if you Persona Ride again, you can get them back again. So it follows that same basic play design where you're pretty much guaranteed, as long as you play correctly and see the Persona Ride that you need, which is the whole pivotal like thing behind the deck. As long as you see that Persona Ride, you get the value, and you can keep getting that value as long as you play it. Also, it's kind of nice because that means you could theoretically play multiple copies of them in your deck, because they don't have that, once per copy kind of effect, right? Because they don't need it. It's not Favrneel. So it'd be kind of cool if you can play multiples of them, and then you have like a revived version of Gramgrace that you could do. Like, you could establish a whole different deck design around Gramgrace. That would be sick, dude. And it would be all based on that drop zone recursion element. Anyway, that's how I would change these, right? So if you like my suggestion there, Scarlight, maybe try to like edit these with that kind of like skill condition, right? Make the autos Soul Blast, and then these come back from the drop zone. So you Soul Blast them, boom, boom. And if you do, ping me in the custom card chat in my Discord, and I'll check it out. I'll see what you did there, because these actually seem kind of hype. So despite that, I actually do... overall, I like these. I do like these a lot. I think I'm going to give them about like cumulatively about like a 7, give or take. They all have their respective issues in the card design, and also some of the restrictions that they have that seem good in theory aren't the proper restrictions. And while like this one, of course, is just the insane one, but then even with these ones, it felt like, you know, it was incongruent with the styles. So there's also some amount of like thematic, like some thematic friction going on here. 7 it is. Good attempts though. I definitely want to see more, so it's got good potential. All right, so Constant Abroad, 6017. You got a few here. All right, so Goddess of Phantasmia, Aidios Aigis. Wait, hold on a second. Phantasmia, Aidios. This actually reminds me of I don't know how many people know Trails, but I'm a big Trails fan, right? And in the world of Trails, Aidios is the sky goddess that is their main god figure. They're kind of monotheistic, right? And Phantasma was from Trails in the Sky, the third chapter, and that was like that other world or whatever that like they were in. Phantasma though, not Phantasmia. Interesting. That's probably just a coincidence though, right? Grade 3 Twin Drive, 13 power, Persona Ride, Deity, non-nation card. Okay, so it's like a Cray elemental. Okay. Act on the Vanguard circle once per turn. Cost Energy Blast 4, discard a card from your hand. Ooh, okay. Not a bad cost there. You look at the top 7 cards of your deck and choose the 2 cards from among them, discard them, and shuffle. Then call as many grade 3 or less units from your drop for each grade of your opponent. Oh, okay, so that means going first, this effect's kind of a son of a bitch. You only get like a +1, but if you're going second, yeah, so Energy Blast 4 and discard, but then you can tutor out a couple of cards, revive them back for a cumulative plus, like, it's a +3 versus a -1, so it becomes like an Energy Blast 4 for a +2 in the highest, regardless you're playing against a grade 4, but there's no power-ups to it, but it's a really good plus. It's on a Vanguard act skill once per turn. Yeah, that's kind of right in the middle there. So, and it also kind of gives you a theory what the deck is supposed to do, right? Because it seems like the deck is supposed to be like mustering back like a full board, but it has a revival element to it, so, you know, kind of like Aidios, so I guess we're sort of reviving the dead with this one. But it is a non-nation card, so I mean, it's not like its nation implications is all over the place. Some decks would like that revival skill a lot more than others. Ranking. Auto on the Vanguard circle once per turn. At the end of the battle, one of your unit attacks. Well, I don't know what that grammar is. Cost Counterblast 1, choose a normal order for your drop and play without playing the cost. And if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 grade, choose another normal order with a different card name and out. What the heck? Wait. Alka Magic? Where the heck did that come from? Suddenly, I thought I was reading a pseudo Trails card, then suddenly it's Zorgon time. Oh man, that crept up on me, bro. I hope the Calamari man himself is not too infuriated by this blatant copyright on his main gimmick. Anyway, so okay, at the end of the battle, one of your unit attack, I don't know what that like condition is supposed to mean. Like anytime a unit attacks, you can counterblast one to choose a normal order and play without playing the cost. So you CB1 to play a normal order, but then you can Alka Magic. Now, it doesn't have the reminder text here, but Alka Magic means that you probably, if I'm understanding right, you're binding the card from the drop zone and adding its text like to the bottom of the order that you're initially playing as the front order. I think that's how it's supposed to function here still. If that's the case, then yeah, you're gonna run out, but still, what the frick? And it's based on any normal order. So of course, as a nation list, like all of them have normal orders. I don't think this is there any nation where this is busted? Dragon Empire ain't got crap to do with that. Dark State's normal orders usually suck. I remember trying to do that with the Ceresfiel or whatever. It was the name of the restanding lady that needed like normal orders and dark states or whatever. So she sucked with that. Counter Sanctuary has a few that are like interesting, right? If you're doing it as like a multi-attack engine, you could do Wisdom's Beginnings to muster a couple cards like after drawing a couple cards, so that's pretty cracked. You have a couple other call cards there. You even have recycling cards in Counter Sanctuary. So in Counter Sanctuary, this goes pretty effing hard. Plus, it seems like because you're trying to bind cards, you could get a little bit of a bind wrap going, although admittedly, it's not really going to be too helpful there, the binding in that one. Stoicheia is obviously like a Jesus with this because Stoicheia is actually based on Alka Magic. Again, thank you, Zorga. Although, You know, I think about it, this actually, so you guys remember when Bushiroad did the clearly the most 5-head and super beneficial for the format thing ever in eroting the Zorga cards, like the Ye Wandering Souls and also the Nectar Sensationalism. Well, you know, we thought non-Eclair was going to break Stoic K, and that'd be the reason why. It turns out this, all along, is actually better at breaking those cards, right? Because holy crap, this is Zorga on steroids. Like, you just keep, because you do it during the battle phase. Like, holy crap. Thank the Lord it's a once per turn skill, because otherwise, if you could keep doing it at the end of any, like, unit battle, oh my god. And it's not even choked on the timing, because it's any unit, including itself. Wow. But at the same time, depending on the nation, this is interesting, but then it leads to a lot of implications I don't think, like, decks are, like, centered around. Brandgate should be fine, because Brandgate does set orders, so it doesn't really care about that. Lyrical's an interesting one. So Pretty Demicord doesn't effing matter. You get some resource order cards. You have like the offshoot or whatever, which gives power, so that's more power. That's not that big of a deal. So I mean, Lyrical probably has some implications. I don't know. Chat, let me know down in like the comment section below. What is the most broken application of the generic like non-nation Alchemagic? What is the application of that? Right now, I'm inclined to say this is just like an alternative Zorga, but it actually does things in a bit of an intriguing way. Like this first effect I think is really nifty. It musters up the fields, and then it has a cost, obviously. So basically you could discard 2 cards from the top deck, and then the thing that you discarded, you should be getting your grave set up with the 3 that you need at bare minimum. So as long as you have the energy, you're good to go there. So it's a really powerful plussing skill. And then while it has no power behind it on either of these effects, that Alchemagic could get you a lot of power depending on what you're playing, right? I don't know. Let me know. I think this is probably like, but it's really interesting though. It's kind of creative. And like, even though the Alchemagic is really like, it feels random at first glance and it feels like it could be busted, I'm actually having a hard time breaking it. So yeah, I think we'd give it an 8. Like an 8.5 or something, like an 8 or 8.5. It's actually really fascinating. It feels like a really good, honest to God attempt at a generic boss unit. How about that? Servant of Phantasma Lubra is a grade 2 with basic stats. Auto, when this unit is placed by writing from Magus, reveal a grade 3 Aidios from the ride deck. Choose a normal order from the drop-in, add it to your hand. Okay, so it has a basic It has a basic play style to it. Now it's more based on the normal orders, so this is for any nation, obviously. So any nation that has some good normal orders will be able to play Lubre, but you need to be able to have the Aidios of the ride deck, which is a smart condition, because that means that this ride line is not generic unless you're also playing the Aidios, which means that while it is a generic card technically, I mean, you could meme and play like Rizal as a finisher or something in this deck, teehee. It's not going to be broken in like the way that like Boss Saga's initial ride line was, or also the funnily enough the initial Zorga ride line. Like those didn't really ride line restrict, right? Bushiroad wasn't thinking about that very much yet back then, so as a result you could abuse those in anything. This not so much, so it's kind of a smart design, and I mean it feels like it makes sense, right? So basically, when it's placed, you add back the order card, which is kind of like on Blacktear's Husk Dragon, because then for your grade 3 ride, you rediscard that normal order and then you Alchemagic it from the drop zone. So it refunds your ride there. Magus, when it's placed by writing from Stigma Stigma, that's also a freaking Trails thing. Oh god, I really feel like this is a Trails thing. Now you reveal the Aidios in the ride deck. Search your deck and choose up to 2 normal orders and discard them. No! Oh, by the way, this thing is angel type and this thing is deity type, but this thing doesn't have a type. Minor little typo there. Anyway, so no, any 2 order cards? Hell no, you were doing so well too. Oh, Constant Abroad, you were doing so well. God darn it, gosh dang it. Magus should not dump any 2 from the ride line, because obviously then it's going to get you this card, and then you're going to be able to then have the full Alchemagic setup for yourself. This is holding your hand way too much. Here's what I think it should have done. this effect to choose up to 2 normal orders, right? Here's what I think it should have done. When it's placed by writing from Stigma Phantasma, look at the top 7 cards of your deck. Look, you reveal up to 2 normal order cards from among them, add them to your hand, and shuffle your deck. If you added 2 or more cards, choose a card from your hand and discard it. If you did not reveal a card by this effect, draw a card. There you go. It's a +1 no matter what, but if you hit both of them, you get your discard, and then that's your Alchemy Magic. Right there, right? But you have to high roll the top 7 to make it work. It'll still be an insane effect. So insane effect, I think this should actually come with like a Soul Blast cost to it. That way, which would be kind of ranker chaining, but you do that Soul Blast and then you get a really nice like set up card that also comes with like discards and plussing, and also the Soul Blast can kind of help you because that means that it's also a potential revival card in case you don't see a lot of good discards, so you can still revive the starter that you Soul Blasted. So Dream Enabling may come back for an encore performance all these years later. That's what I would suggest, but yeah, do that, and this is perfect. This is a really fine effect, and Aidios is really sick. I am still a little iffy. Maybe it's just because I'm not seeing the full combos here, but I actually think it could be a really interesting boss unit. I would be curious about playing this in like a custom card battle just to see what nation I would do. This is like Gryphogila, but if Gryphogila was like more feasible because it's not focused on some really like hard to reach win condition, and it's just about like using the order cards the best way possible, right? Oh, I accidentally hit your cards. Whoops. Now we have Stigma Phantasm, grade 0 flat. Okay, never mind. Ignore what I said there. This is more different than I gave it credit for. So this is even more different than Grypho C potentially. When this unit is wrote upon, put this card in your order zone face up, then you win second, draw a card. Oh, okay, so we're fixing the buddy fight issue of going second feels bad because now it doesn't. Continues, we only have 1 flag in a deck, sure. Continuous Vanguard, Circle, or the order zone. This can't be affected by abilities or effects. When you would ride, call, or play a card, you can use cards from all nations and clans. You can all ride great through your... Okay. That completely threw a lot of my commentary out the effing window. Holy crap. I thought it was just like a kindly old man saying, oh, I'd like to make a Gryphogila, but it was order based, and I want to see which nations could have interesting uses of order combination. And then it hulked out like it was Zeus from Record of Ragnarok and just threw the fridge out the freaking window, dude. Holy crap. That's insane and probably shouldn't happen. So now in Aidios, you get access to orders from like all nations. And it's all cards. It's not just the order cards. It's all cards. That means all of the busted generics across all nations. You get to play all of them. Oh my god, that isn't crazy. That I am going to go so hard building like a deck that uses Franchette with Keter Order Package and Saragown, but it also gets access to like Shenries, and then it gets access to Philia. It gets access to like, oh man, because that means you could use all of the order cycle, order engine cards from all the different nations. So yeah, okay, so we want Saragown, we want Taithfall, we want Shenri. What else do we want? What else can we do? Oh, hold on a second. Let me look up something. Virgilla orders. So Virgilla order. Let me look at this, right? So what about oh yeah, let me look up finishing move. Finishing move. Okay, so hold on a second. Oh, but they have to have it, right? Hold on. They're Blazing Starcross. Okay, so we have Blazing Starcross and we have Stardust Blade. Are these generic? Damn it, you need Virgilla. Okay. We can't use those. I would love to have used those there. Still, that... Oof. Oh, that's dangerous. Okay. So... Chat, I've got a challenge for you. I have a challenge for all of you. I might even make a post for this. Find the best way to break this. make a deck for me, all right? Make a deck for me using all the cards from all nations, because that's what Stigma Phantasma says, right? Make a deck for me which utilizes all of the generics, like the orders and across all the nations. What is the most broken this can be? I challenge all of you to make the most broken version of this deck possible. Submit it to me in the comments section. I might even make it, like I said, I might make a post. So you can submit it there too if you want. But even if not, at bare minimum, send it to the comment section of this video. And I will show off in the next video. I will show off what I believe to be the most perfect breaking of these Aidios cards from the comment section. I will review that breaking of this reviewed set of cards right here. All right. So I'm going to give a deliberate couple days here before I start recording the next one, just to make sure people matriculate in and start labbing this out. I want to see the most broken variation of this. I don't care if it has Keter order package, if it has some weird tech cards from Dragon Empire, if it's got basically the everything sauce that is Stoicheia coming in, because obviously Stoicheia is built on this premise, so Stoicheia is going to be a lot of them, right? Show me the best variation of this card. Show me what happens when we bring in Extreme Fight into effing D series. All right. That's the goal. I wish you luck. Happy hunting, everyone. Holy crap. As for this, I'm gonna reduce this. I'm gonna reduce this a bit because this seems insane. But it's a 7 out of 10 for me overall. It's super creative, but I feel like it's got such a no limits thing going on that I'm I am afraid of these cards. Please, I'm scared. Get me out of here. We have 2 nations with token units because of Lyrical and Stoicheia. Here's my take on a Dark States token deck. Ooh, okay. How many cards do we have? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, hold on a second. These are familiar. These are some Shadowverse cards. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and read. I'm gonna read these, and then that's gonna be it for the day. Yeah, it looks like we got a lot of other stuff going on later, so we'll get to those when we get to those. So then, because if it was a 1 or 2 card next, I might have been able to squeeze it in, but it seems like we got a lot going on, so we'll save it for next time. So Hunting Bar, you've got a lot here. I'll start with the grade 3s and move on from there, I think. So what's this guy? This is Cheerful Reaper Bromeo. I'm still reeling over the freaking Aidios cards. Holy crap. And to think I thought they were trails. During your turn, if you have a Grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Masquerade Ghost as card name, this unit gets 5,000 power for each of your Ghost token rear guards. Okay. When it's placed on rear circle, counterblast, when you choose 2 cards for your drop, put them to soul, and call up to 2 Ghost tokens to rear circle. 2 cards for your drop into the soul automatically like that. Ooh, okay. Retire a Ghost token, draw a card. This unit gets boosted 5,000 power. Oh, so it's meant to be a that's a freaking massive booster. What the frick? So, okay, retire a Ghost token, get a couple Ghost tokens. If you have a field of 4 Ghost tokens, the card is, and you also use this skill, the card's getting is a 38k booster, which is pretty insane, of course. But in order to manifest a Ghost tokens, you did need to counterblast 1, so that's a good cost. And you did need to retire a Ghost token in order to get the draw, so you're kind of you're exchanging value, so that's pretty powerful. So realistically, it's CBs to put 2 cards from the drop into the soul, and then you can call a Ghost token, draw a card, and then it gets the power and boost. So this is a lot of value on 1 card. I feel like this feels a little Vanguard to me, where a Vanguard circle skill should have probably done one of these skills. I think this auto skill shouldn't have been on Cheerful Reaper. Just the continuous skill and the axe skill alone is probably good enough to make it a huge beater / booster, so it's versatile and strong. Save the mustering for some other unit to help facilitate Bromeos. That's how I would have changed it. Furthermore, I think with this effect here, there is kind of a cool thing, because it says for each of your Ghost token rear guards, it gets 5,000, which means if you do try to abuse Bromeos' Mort, that's less Ghost tokens, so the Bromeos cumulatively lose the extra power from it. So that's a nice counterbalance without needing to spell it out for us. So Bromeos is overall good card. Take out the auto skill and we're cooking, man. So based on it, it's alluding that this is your Vanguard, right? Gargantuan Ghost. Hold on a second. Wait, it says Masquerade Ghost. Okay, so not Gargantuan Ghost. Hold on, is there a Masquerade Ghost going on somewhere near here? Let me check. Soul Cage Contract, Soul Legion, Soul Sniper, Apprentice Necromancer. This is the Ghost token. It's a Ghost token. It's a 5k beater, boost 0. Okay, so it's just a basic 5k unit, but it's like a plant token basically. That's all we need to know about it. Where's your grade 3? Wait. Oh, he has a ride line here. Oh, frick. There's a lot of cards, actually. Okay, I'm going to need to lock in here. So let me go ahead and start from the beginning here, chat. I did not realize how this was going. Whoops. I actually read Bromios of all things. My bad. So Young Soul Commander Aldrich. We can expect some pretty cool, like, beautiful arts because this is based on Shadowverse. So that is kind of a nice boon to playing it. When started upon, draw a card. Okay, so basic starter. Now, your grade 1 starts to inform you. I think I actually got, like, smacked down by these at one point, right? I'm pretty sure someone played these against me at some point. I'm not sure if it was this specific version. Maybe this is a really popular archetype, so people have done different takes on it, but I swore there was a ghost token deck that just like absolutely annihilate me to like super plussing, right? When it's placed in Vanguard Circle, Soul Blast 1 or Energy Blast 2 and call ghost token to rear circle. Fair enough. What's interesting about this is that it requires a cost to call it ghost token, but things like the plant token generators from Stoicheia don't require that. So this might actually be overcosted here. I don't think you need to pay a cost for that unless there's something I'm missing from it. When it's placed on Vanguard Circle, Energy Soul Blast 1, Energy Blast 3, and call 2 ghost tokens. Ooh, okay. This one actually is reasonable for the cost because you're not like doing a retire call the way that like Great Row or Wideline does. You're actually getting 2 additional pluses there, but they are ghost tokens. So yeah, that's actually a perfect skill. I like that skill, and I like the fact that it dares to be different. So, and I think it does it in like a positive way. So top marks there. Continues on the rear circle. During the battle, this unit boosted by a ghost token gets 5,000 for each of your ghost tokens. Oh wow, nice beater. I actually could see you playing this. So if you have like a field of like 4 ghost tokens, it gets the best power up. But again, right thing, just like with Bromios, the more of these non-ghost tokens that you have, the less the power up is. But then like they're also really powerful skills. So you kind of have to adjust between how many of your fields should be ghost tokens and how many of them should be normal units. That is a really interesting dichotomy. I don't really often think about like that in like card design because Bushido doesn't really do that card design, but that is fascinating. I'm really excited by this so far. Okay, bring it on. Underworld Revelry Masquerade Ghost. Oh, look at him, bro. Holy crap. He can eat all the calories with that freaking mouth face chest thing. He's really sick. Oh, look at the flute, like the fire effects there and the way like it shifts colors. And the background's nice too. It's got like a lantern thing going on. So it's like an undead necropolis. Oh, man, Shadowverse art. Act on the Vanguard Circle. Soul Blast 2, draw a card called to 2 ghost tokens to rear circle. Okay, that's okay. A plus and 2 ghost tokens. Oh, wait, Bromios is putting in 2 cards from Drops on the Soul so you can get this automatically. Yeah, that's a little bit too busted of a combo, in retrospect. That's a lot of ghost token. I don't know about that. Personally, how I would have adjusted that is to replace this effect, so Bromios' effect, right? So let me actually like open this twice here real quick so that I can get both sides. Probably the best way to do it. So this is Bromios, right? Now Bromios is put like 2 into soul in order to call 2 for a counterblast. I think what should have happened here is, let me look at this real quick, right? So this has, it looks like it has a counterblast later on, so I'll read the rest of the effect before going to this, but I feel like this effect could have just went on this axe skill instead. Continuous. All of your rear guards are replaced by your card's ability. This turn gets 5,000 power. Okay, so that would be your ghost tokens. It doesn't seem like it's calling like a lot of like normal units here, so it's just for ghost tokens. They become 10k beaters under him, which it's sensible. This was a pretty logical like design ethos that we saw from like V-Series Neonectars when they were like really pushing the plant token gimmick at first. Auto on the Vanguard Circle. When this unit attacks, you can Energy Blast to retire a ghost token. It gets 10,000 power to enter that battle. Okay. If your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, you can counterblast when it also gets a critical. Oh, okay. So that's actually interesting. So I understand now. This so far doesn't seem to have like too big of a win condition. It pluses an F ton thanks to the power of the ghost tokens, and then you can convert ghost tokens into draws. That's one reason why I don't like this, because it's getting you the draw and the ghost tokens, but I feel like it should have converted ghost tokens into draws the way that Bromios did. But having said that, it is a good design ethos, so it gets you a lot of like solid beatdown potential with basic Vanguard pressure, but it's got an attrition game going on. It's almost everlasting, which fits the theme of being ghosts, right? So okay, if they have like a strong like rearguard like beat stick as well beyond Bromios that like maybe has like something spicy, like maybe it's a sentinel restrictor, maybe it also gets a critical, so now like even though you don't have a lot of swings, there's a lot of criticals going around, so it gives that little bit of like lethal edge to it. If you get that, yeah, I mean, this archetype seems really complete to me, right? And this does seem like kind of actually familiar to something I fought before, so I'm almost certain. Okay, so the ride line looks pretty good there. I'm going to keep the tab open, though, in case I need to refer back to it for the other reads. So let me actually, so we already read Ghost Token earlier, so it's just a 5k beater. But let's go ahead and move on to the grade 1s. I'll accelerate up to the grade 2s, and then go up to the grade 3s. So this is Apprentice Necromancer Zamira. Welcome back. Auto on the rear circle. She looks really gloomy. She looks like, ugh, I work 9 to 5, and I'm going to continue to work 95 for the rest of my miserable 40 years of existence. Except I'm a ghost, so it's actually infinite. Oh, joy. Auto on the rear circle, your token unit in the same column as unit cannot be chosen by your opponent's card play. Ooh, so you actually want to keep the token there. That's actually a bit odd, because usually with tokens, considering you can spam a lot of tokens to the rear circle, I don't think there would really be a point to getting like the token out there. Auto, when this unit is placed on rear circle, counterblast when called to 2 ghost. Why is there so much token called? We only have 5 spaces on the effing board, and it's not like this guy is Big Chungus here. I eat 5 token to get effect off, right? He's not doing that. He's eating 1 ghost token. He eats 1 of them. That's it. Like like the other card, Bromios, right? Like it makes 2 ghost tokens by giving you like 2 soul from drop, which I still don't really understand that. Like it makes the other thing 2 free, right? It gets you 2 ghost tokens and only eats 1. So your surplus on ghost tokens is absolutely incredible. We don't need that from Zamira's effect. I think, and also the protection effect is a little bit weird because again, you get so many ghost tokens, so why do you care? They can't even like be locked or whatever because they just like, they fizzle out. They dissipate when you do that, right? They go to the afterlife, so to speak. This is a confusing card. I feel like Zamira is completely, unless there's some card that is eating like ghost tokens en masse and I haven't gotten to that point yet, there's no point. Zamira does not have a place in this deck. It feels like she's addressing like problems that don't even exist in this version, but maybe there's something I'm not getting about that yet. Okay, so the couple other grade 1s here. This seems like a unit card, so we'll do you first. Soul Sniper Demetria. Oh, hey, you're named after the ghosty grade 3 from GZ, or well, near G. I think it was GZ. I forget if it was GZ, G next, something like that. Just G. Auto, when this unit is placed on rear circle, retire a ghost token. There we go. I want more of these. Soul Charge 1, choose on your opponent's rear guards, retire. Ooh, okay. Soul Charge and retire for retiring a ghost token. That's a little edgy. I feel like what you should have done is retire ghost token, choose your opponent's rear guards, retire. If you did not retire, you may Soul Charge 1 instead. I feel like that's a better conversion value because you shouldn't get both. That's a little bit too much in my opinion because again, you're getting ghost tokens out the ass. Oh, and again, Soul's not an issue for Mr. Rideline card here. So Masquerade Ghost just eating that +3 like nobody's business, boy. Auto on the rear circle, all of your ghost tokens get when your other unit is being attacked. You can retire this unit, choosing your units being attacked, and expect 5,000 to end that battle. Oh, on a rear guard it does that. That is a weird allocation that skill. So this is another thing. He's taken a page out of Roroa's book here. Roroa had an auto skill, and let me actually pop out. I should probably be doing this more, right? I know it takes a little bit extra time, but for those who like don't know what like I'm saying, this is probably like pretty helpful to see what I mean, right? I hope so anyway. Let me know in the comment section below if you guys prefer I don't look up cards or if you actually want to see like the visual demonstration of what I'm talking about, right? So this is Roroa, right? Maybe I can actually just click on him and that's better. Yeah, that looks a little better to me. So he has an effect that says that when he's attacked, you can retire a token unit in order to get 5,000 power until end of battle for each one retired. This is not a once per turn skill, so as long as you keep having tokens, you can keep retiring them. So this card right here, Demetria, is doing that as well, but it's on a rear guard, which means that like I know tokens are against like field control, right? Because if you get field control and they wipe out your tokens, you couldn't use Roroa's skills anyway. But oddly enough, this effect here to keep a token might have actually have made like Zamira a little bit more worth it. The issue is that Zamira is only protecting a token unit, which is a fine trade-off, except that this isn't a token unit, but that's the thing that's giving the ability to your tokens. So if you get rid of this, then it's a done deal anyway. The tokens have been pacified. So probably this effect might have been better served on Masquerade Ghost instead of like one of the other skills. That way Zamira protecting a token would have actually mattered because it's Masquerade Ghost that enables that token to do that effect, so it actually counts. Although then again, Zamira would be able to be chosen anyway, so if they have 2 layers of retire, it would have gone through, but they need to have 2 layers of retire, and that's not always easy. We don't have a lot of column ripes in standard at the moment, so it's a little weird to, it's kind of rare to like get rid of them simultaneously, right, is what I mean to say. So Demetria is just kind of an odd card. I think the first skill has potential as long as you kind of like make one benefit conditional and the other one not like going through. I'd say retire and or soul charge, if not retire, is like the better way to do it, because you know they don't always have a field, right? You will, but not them. So yeah, but still, I think this fundamental defensive skill is pretty handy. You know what you could have done? You could have made this like a set order effect, right? And that set order effect is infinitely better because that means you of course don't need to protect a set order. And of course it runs into the clunkiness of needing to run a set order to have this kind of skill, but there is the defensive payoff to it. And that is another reason why you want to spam the ghost field like with tokens. Because now you have cards to defend with at all times, and your board becomes your shield as well. So yeah, I think that actually would have been a superb idea. It makes things a little bit more gimmicky, but that gimmick has a payoff that justifies things like Zamira and all the others like sneezing and making ghost tokens hit that board. So yeah, Demetria is a little bit of a weird place, but it has strong concepts. It's just not executed very well in my opinion. The final grade one is Soul Cage Contract. So ooh, interesting. Perform one of the following: call a ghost token to rear circle. Okay, retire a ghost token. Look at the top 3 cards of your deck. Choose 1 card from among them, put in a hand. Choose 1 card from among them, put in the soul, and discard the rest. That's a cool effect. I like that effect. So the Soul Cage Contract converts an excess ghost token into a tutoring from a limited range, but still a justifiable range. So ultimately, it is kind of a neg 1, but it is a powerful neg 1 that also gets you back a soul, and it's off the back of being able to just spam tokens to the field. So you see, I want effects like this, right? Because this actually justifies your rampant abuse of tokens because there are things that are using them. So, and if you don't have a lot of ghost tokens, you can instead call a ghost token. You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of Earthright Rune from Runecraft, right? Earthright Rune had a basic ability where you could build what was your Earthright. It is a pile that takes up one of your zones on the field. And as you keep building up quote unquote dirt, you use that dirt as like cost. So like for instance, you would need to eat 2 Earthright in order to like draw a card or something like that. Just a basic example. Like you can do that, but a lot of those cards had a dual function because you could choose that effect, or you could choose, oh, when you play it, you get an Earthright. So you have a dual function. How many of your cards do you want to build the earth, and how many of your cards do you want to eat the earth, right? This is the same thing. Do you build the ghosts or do you eat the ghosts? Probably the second effect is going to be the more popular one of the two. If you really bricks, you might use it. Also, I guess it's kind of a rush effect because, again, a ghost is like a generically viable like attacker booster even in the early game. So in theory, you could use Soul Cage Contract to like help early rush, like a la token spam style. But then you kind of burn Soul Cage Contract in order to do that. So that's your cost to bear, right? Perfect card, 10 out of 10. I love the way that's utilized in this deck. All right, we got 3 more cards to go, so let's chug on along, eh, chat? So next up, we've got Matron of the Eventide, Desdemona. Okay, got it. When played, sculpt a 1 token to rear circle, and if your Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, soul charge 1. Oh, this is based on Maiden of Sweetberry. Maiden of Sweetberry did that too. I don't think this should do it because your ghost tokens are like hyper impactful. I feel like if your Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, soul charge. Again, this is doing a lot of soul charge, so this like soul blast effect is not important. And what I should mean to say is that the cost is not impactful. Ooh. You know what? Here's what I would have done with Desdemona. Actually, no, let me read the other effect before I say that. Maybe I'm missing something here. Auto on the rear circle. I really get ahead of myself. Auto on the rear circle once per turn. This unit attacks while boosted. Okay, so probably boosted by a token. Or you can boost by the biggest, chungest Bromios right here. Bromios the bro. When it's boosted, you can counterblast 1 to call a ghost token to rear circle. The unit gets 5,000 power at the end of turn. Oh, that's a multi-attack. Oh, that's a multi-attack. Okay. But it's multi-attacking with just a basic token. Okay, that is a fine and you know what, this multi-attack while on your Masquerade Ghost is a 15k, so it's a really weak wimpy 15k, but it is something you could do if you're willing to pay the counterblast. See, that's a fine multi-attack option right there, right? That is totally fine with me. And also what's kind of nifty about this is that what you can do is it works with your attack patterns really quite well, because you swing with the token column or whatever, right? And then you go Masquerade Ghost. Masquerade Ghost is going to eat that front row that you swung with on the first swing. And then whatever drive text you go for, you transfer it over to Desmona. Now Desmona with that really hefty attack is going to CB1 in order to call a ghost token to rear circle and gets 5,000 power. So you have that open circle that you ate up because of Masquerade Ghost to make it. But by both of these attacks, if your opponent has checked a defensive by that point, you may not do that effect. And if so, you have the choice to do it. It's very retrospective, so you have the choice to not want to call that card and waste a CB, which is kind of like Yugioh Mashot's whole end of battle restand, but it's very intuitive. It works well with the deck here. So this is one of the best multi-attacks I've seen from just like a card balance, but also practicality standpoint. It feels organic. It feels like it belongs here. Having said that though, I feel like the auto skill is probably a little easy on the resources. So and also it's kind of just calling a ghost token, right? So it's kind of fixing its own issue of needing a ghost token for free. I don't like that. Probably what I would have done is, one thing you're not doing a lot here so far, I'm gonna continue reading the rest of, so this may be retrospectively bad. I feel like it should have like had an axe skill to energy blast and call a ghost token. Then if you Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, or not even Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, if you have like 3 or more ghost token on the field, then you can soul charge one. So basically, if you're spamming out ghost token while she's there, your energy blast calls a ghost token and then you can get the soul charge, because at least it's more conditional that way than just needing the Vanguard to be Masquerade Ghost. Well, technically it doesn't even need to be that. Funnily enough, this actually makes ghost tokens generically viable in dark states. Maybe that was your point. Maybe your point was to make ghost tokens generically viable, but I think even with that, if you're playing a ghost token engine, the soul charge could still work if you're high rolling a lot of your ghost tokens, because ghost tokens pop over the place. God, take a shot every time I say ghost token, by the way, or don't, because I don't want hospitalizations to start happening across the nation, wherever you're watching at. So not even across the nation, across the globe. Holy Christ. Anyway, so final grade 2 here is Soul Legion Dragon. Holy crap. I wish Noara was here today. He would love the look of this card, dude. Effing sick. Okay, quick sippy here. Okay, auto on the rear circle. When placed on the rear circle, the ghost token. Draw a card. This you get set. Okay, so now we're taking a Sergeant Malnasu, or not even Sergeant Malnasu. It's just a gradual effect. So clearly, this person did their homework and they studied a lot of the ghost token acquisition. Not ghost. Again, I'm saying it too much now. It's becoming brain rot, right? So they said 2 nations with tokens yours might take, right? So he's doing a lot of like using tokens for like spamming, for calling, for it's used for cost, it's used for defense, and now it's actually used as a way to kind of like vicariously get drawn power. Maiden of did this, Gradual did this in V-Series, so they studied their V-Series card pool quite well. Auto on the wrist circle, the email this unit attack to have a ghost Vanguard. So this one's actually kind of locked in a bit. Obviously he's a ghost. Energy blast 3, put this in the soul. Choose over 2 cards from your drop, put in the soul. Oh, you shouldn't be doing that. That's +3 to your soul, by the way. That's crazy. Call up to 2 ghost tokens to rear circle, and if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or grade, those ghost tokens. Ooh, yeah, I don't like this card. Oh, this card is bad. So in addition to being like effectively, it turns all of your ghost tokens to free +1s and free 10,000 powers whenever you call it over there. So you just like, let's say that you're just going Masquerade Ghost, right? You energy blast 2 to draw and then call 2 ghost tokens. Call 2 of these, that's 2 of the draws. So you've +3 to the hand by energy blasting 2. I'm not energy blasting 2 by soul blasting 2, except Psych. Now you get 2 cards that you just soul blasted into the soul, so that's free. Those goes into the soul, so you actually go net positive in soul, and then for the price of an energy blast, you once again get 2 more ghost tokens, and those ghost tokens are going to get an extra 10,000 power total because of its own skill and also the effect of Masquerade Ghost. Wow. Wonderful. So yeah, this completely misses the mark. It turns your entire deck into like token beatdown spam, so that's terrible. And if that wasn't enough, let's recall the fact that Masquerade Ghost powering up all of these. That's not grade 3 or greater locked either. The only thing that's grade 3 or greater locked is that this is giving the power up. So you could still like call a column of 10k ghost tokens, which means they hit 20k column, which is a magic number against a 10k base grade 2. So that is insane. And oh God, that is really unfortunate. Also, another thing that's like pretty crazy, right, is Because it's putting itself into the soul as a net positive, that means next turn, even if you don't see it again, you can still just do this effect for really lickety split, especially your Persona, that it becomes free again. It makes everything too free and you're getting too much beatdown. This one is unfortunately I have to say, this is a terrible card. Okay, so Gargantuan Ghost. Act on the rear circle once per turn. Cost retire 2 ghost tokens. Draw a card. This unit gets 10,000 power into end of turn. Okay, fair enough. You're converting ghost tokens into power, and it makes it another beatdown card. So again, you can get the beatdown, but then things like Bromios are going to like taper off in their benefit because you have the power up from this. This is not a token unit, so that's important. I like that. At the end of this unit attack, retire this unit called Jakku. Stop that. Stop multi-attacking. God, you had it perfect with your Desmona or whatever Desdemona, but Gargantuan Ghost it's a free multi-attack? Holy crap, and there's so many ways to get 5 attack now in this deck, man. If not like, holy crap, the only thing that these like have like that are like balanced is the fact that they'll like, in theory, you can only ever get 5 attacks because you're going to be overcalling any other potential enablers, right? Let's say you did Gargantuan's Ghost effect, right? If you didn't give your Soul Legion Dragon a chance to proc, then you're going to be calling over it, so that means it can't use its busted skill. But then vice versa. If Soul Legion Dragon does its skill and calls to 2 front rows, then Gargantuan Ghost doesn't have a chance to use its skill. Thank God we didn't do an Orphis thing of calling token when overcalled by token, because then we'd be really in for it. But it's still really busted, because why are we doing this? And again, it's also against a grade 2. So you're going 23 at bare minimum, and then those things are making a 20k column against them? That's insane. Okay, so unfortunately, we're ending on a low note with Soul Legion Dragon and Gargantua Ghost. Their first skills for setup and power, I think I could have tolerated them in a vacuum if they weren't like super beatdown, but now those in conjunction with the obviously ludicrous beatdown it's just too much. I feel like you should have focused more on the deck's ability to just like play the resource game, get really nice power thanks to cards like Bromios, and then be able to have like really solid utility and tutoring effects. Soul Contract to being able to get you whatever cards you want. Something like Soul Sniper, although maybe not in the form of Soul Sniper, which wasn't the greatest delivery of it, but a defensive skill there is very admirable. Matron being your multi-attack extender if you want the option, although the multi-attack is not the most powerful, so you have to be able to make that choice, but costs are super free, so this CV shouldn't be too much of an issue for that. That was a really good choice as well. There was a lot going on here, but then right at the end, these two sort of like ruins it a little bit for me there, but don't worry. I'm only going to keep it in the vacuum, these cards. These cards are terrible. They're like 2 or 3s, right? They're really bad, but having said that, everything else about this deck, for the most part, is really fascinating. Now, unfortunately, Zamira is basically pointless here. I don't think Zamira, like, reflects well in the current blueprint, and Demetria could have been done better. So, Zamira and Demetria are closer to, like, 5s or 6s, I would say. So, you got a couple of 2s to 3s, a couple of 5s to 6s, but then the 1, 2, 3, 4... I guess I'll technically laugh and say 5, but and then of course 6, 7, 8, 9, right? But realistically 7 for 1, 2, and 3. Well, I mean, this one's also overcosted, so this one's a little weird to me. So I'd probably even say this is like maybe like a 6 as well. So you have like 3 6s, but you have a lot of these are like 9s or 10s. You have a lot of 9s to 10s. Like some of them are just so pitch perfect, and I absolutely adore the way they play. I especially adore the way that like Bromios plays, and also the way that like Desmona plays. And while Ghost himself is doing a little bit too much, he's a bit like too easy on that axe skill in retrospect, I don't think the axe skill here is inherently a mistake if you were to take out the context. So it's because of everything else that makes it too easy. So Ghost is probably closer to like an 8, but he has some wicked support cards that are like pitch perfect 10 out of 10s. So what do I do here with like all these cards, which by the way I reviewed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, perfect 12 right there. So you really hit right on like the maximum value. So good stuff there. You counted that well. What do I rank these? I'm going to give it, I think as a complete package, I'm going to give it a 7.5. I think it's a very admirable attempt. It falls into a lot of pitfalls that really drag down the score, but it has a few really shiny examples of like the potential of a well-orchestrated series of cards based around a start stakes tokens design ethos, which is using them as a resource engine for some really brutal attacks, but also having a perpetuity kind of like playstyle. to it, where even in the late game, you can constantly get these tokens out there on the field to do your bidding. I think that's really nice and a good concept, and should have been expanded more, but in the correct way, and at least correct relative to me, Mr. YouTuber man, right? So yeah, 7.5 for this. Pretty well done, all things considered. I am overall impressed by them, although they do fall into some pitfalls. Maybe later on you can like go, like, again, my Discord is open to any of y'all who have made these custom cards. If you want to take my advice is there and you want to like implement those critiques into your cards, definitely check out my Discord, link in the description below. We have the custom card like chat in there, and we have a lot of people who check them out, so I can check them out. Other people can give like second or third takes on it as well. So for instance, I invite you, your name was Hunting Bear or Hunting Bar. So I invite you, Hunting Bar, if you see this video, to do some of the changes that like I mentioned here. I think you could get a really, really strong hot topic deck on your hands for it. So that's what I'd have to say there. Anyway, that was a video and a half, wasn't it? Did a lot of really good reviews here, and honestly, it was pretty engaging watching through all of these. So y'all are definitely going in full swing with this custom card review. We're just churning out like some bangers after the other, with the occasional stumble, of course, along the way. But you know, it was mainly just occasional stumbles today. The overall quality, I'd say, was pretty nice. It's certainly a far cry from like the early days here, where people were making all sorts of like design cardinal sins and really wacky effects and nonsense grammar, right? Folks have really come a long way, and I think it's because everyone helps each other out, which is always a treat to see, right? It's nice when a community is able to really lift itself up, right? And it's a rising tide that lifts all boats. Anyway, that's enough of my spiel here. If you guys did like this video, then definitely look forward to the next custom card review, where it seems like we're going to be going to Dragon Rider Arts and his Acolyte of Judge, I don't know what those names are. So Dragon Rider Arts' string of cards there. But let me know in the comment section below, what was your favorite set here? And of course, the challenge again to break Aidios. I am really looking forward to see what kind of things y'all can cook up in the meth lab. Anyway, that's gonna do it. If you guys want to see other videos in the meantime here, aside from custom card review, then look no further than my channel. We do all sorts of Vanguard content here. Top 10s, discussions, fight nights, including the recent fight nights. We even got an anime reaction series that's going on recently. I mean, as of the time of this recording, in about an hour from now, the new Akira versus Yugioh fight is about to happen. It's going to be freaking hype. So I'm looking forward to that for sure. So I hope to see you all there when that reaction releases as well. And with all that said, take care and God bless.